public safety concerns.
Stop out or you will be arrested.
CHOP protesters cleared out by force. Police reclaim its East Precinct after recent violence. The cleanup now begins after a weeks-long standoff in Capitol Hill. But what happens next?
And giving you a live look right now at the Capitol Hill area this morning, tensions did flare up again overnight. Protesters facing off with police officers in the street. You can see a very large police presence still right there right now as we speak. Several arrests were reportedly made overnight. Now first on Como, Seattle's police chief. Carmen Bess is right here with us this morning.
And she is at the center of everything that has been happening involving CHOP's removal and where we go from here. So we do want to welcome Seattle Police Chief Carmen Bess. Thank you for making some time for us this morning, probably on very little sleep, I can imagine. Let's talk about what happened overnight first. Overnight into the early morning hours, we saw some additional clashes with police. What is your department's plan for today? And then how long are you prepared for this to go on night after night if protesters continue to show up at the perimeter?
Well, first, good morning, Kelly, and good morning, Ryan. Yes, I've had very little sleep, but happy to be here to talk to you this morning. You know, last night I can tell you that we did have continued demonstrators in the area, and we did make multiple arrests. You know, we needed to bring, as you know, some semblance of normalcy to the neighborhood after several weeks, especially the last 2 weeks, of multiple incidents of violence and crimes. So our plan at this point is to bring normalcy to the neighborhood. We do want to continue to talk to people who are demonstrating. We do want to move forward with re-envisioning what they're looking for in policing. We want to basically bring them in and have those conversations, but we cannot allow what happened over the last 3 weeks to reoccur.
And Chief, we're looking at some video of those tensions from overnight, and overnight police did use some pepper spray and flashbang. This comes after a Seattle judge banned police from using chemical weapons at protests if life or safety is at risk through September. So what did provoke the use of those countermeasures this morning?
Yeah, we have the Honorable Judge Jones, who gave a temporary restraining order for the use of any chemical munitions unless there are issues within crowd control or individual safety that need to be utilized. It's an out-and-out ban on CS, otherwise known as tear gas, unless that is approved by me in a life safety situation. Of course, that wasn't deployed last night. It was individual pepper spray from officers and maybe 1 or 2 flashbangs. You know, I'll get all those further details for you, but again, nowhere were we in violation of the judge's order.
This has been a long several weeks for police and for demonstrators, for everyone there in the neighborhood specifically. How do you feel about some of the heat that the department has received and the city, both locally and nationally, saying it took 3 weeks, 4 shootings, 2 deaths of teenagers to finally get this under control? Your response to that scrutiny?
Yeah, Kelly, you know, this didn't start out the way that it was ended. The situation devolved. I think we can say from the first few days, people were in, they were peacefully expressing their demonstration rights and their First Amendment rights. But over time, the tone and tenor of what was happening there devolved. We needed to have a plan to get control, so to speak, of the area and minimize the public safety risk over several days as they developed. At one point, I think you all have the video, the officers and firefighters, for that matter, were attempting to go into the area, and they were met with extreme resistance and were not able to get in to provide the public safety that we normally would. So we had reached that point where it was time to do something different for the sake of all the people who live and work and reside in and around the area.
And Chief, what was the moment like for yourself regaining control of the East Precinct station, and how soon will that precinct be operational?
Well, we have some people already working from within the precinct. It's going to take a while to ramp up to full staffing and full support. The precinct, though, is just one piece of what was needed. With or without the precinct, we do need it to help maintain our response times and keep the neighborhood safe. But the area that was the CHOP area, certainly we needed to make sure that we had the ability to get in there with the number of crimes that were occurring. As you know, 2 homicides, the worst 2 incidents, multiple shootings. You've seen the video. We had a rape. We've had robbery. We've had arson. We've had burglary. So it was overdue for us to get in there and do something.
Talk to me about the hours leading up to officers moving in now 24 hours ago. I can only imagine the thoughts going through officers' minds, through your minds, though I'm sure you have all the faith in your department as possible. What were some of those discussions that were happening in those final minutes and those final hours, and what was going through your head? Because I'm sure you could have been prepared for this to not go as peacefully as it actually did yesterday.
You know, Kelly, we were just focused on obtaining the mission of cleaning out and clearing out the area and the park. And we wanted to do that as peacefully as possible, recognizing, like with any plan that we have, that there are contingencies for what might occur. I'm very grateful that this didn't devolve into a much more confrontational encounter. We did meet with some resistance. However, we were able to achieve our goal and get to the mission that we had at hand. I want to commend the men and women of the department for doing a great job.
And Chief, we all know the protests are about police reform, so I'll ask you this question. How does this change SPD, and what will the department look like 1 year from now?
That is a great question, Ryan. I can tell you, let me just start out by saying that, you know, we've been under a consent decree for a long time, and many of the reforms that other agencies are looking to do, we've already done them. De-escalation, additional training, crisis intervention, our policies and our procedures. We have the most robust accountability system in the country with the OPA, IG, and the CPC. So we've done a lot of the work already, and we've been leading the nation in that regard. However, that said, we know that we have to re-envision the other parts of policing and the connection that we have to have with the community, and they need to lead that effort so that we're meeting their expectations. So I think a year from now, why don't you have me back and we can talk about what it looks like.
Definitely. That's a deal right there.
You know, lastly here, Chief, okay, I would like to ask you, you know, when you look at this all in perspective, is there anything else that you would just like people to know?
About the police department?
Yeah, about the department. Anything that you feel like needs to be addressed, that you feel like people haven't specifically asked you, or that you just would like the public to know?
Yeah, well, certainly, first and foremost, we have one of the most highly qualified, highly trained organizations in the country. The men and women are committed to public safety, as am I, but we know that we really need to connect with community on a very significant and deep level so that we can have the best public safety possible. We really want people to recognize that we are a part of the community and not apart from the community. And if we can move forward together, I think we can have the best public safety in the nation.
All right, thank you very much, Seattle Police Chief Carmen Best, for joining us very early this morning. We hope you can get some rest in the near future. In the meantime, at the moment, most of that area that's in the autonomous zone is still very quiet. Como's Denise Whitaker is live with the details. She's joining us now with the very latest. Denise.
Well, right now it is pretty quiet out here, but when people come by, there's a young lady who just wanted to get through the police tape here, and officers will not let them because they have this entire area under control where they are not letting anyone get in there unless you live or work there. And there is someone who is wanting to go visit someone, and she can't prove that she lives there, so the officers are not going to let her through. So this is what they're doing. They're controlling all of the space. Just about 15 or 20 minutes ago down the street there, we did see where someone walked all the way to a police line, and they were then handcuffed and arrested. So again, they are very serious, obviously, about keeping this zone clear. Now, a number of the people, more than 40, were arrested yesterday, and when they got out of jail yesterday, they came right back to the protest line, and that includes one of the leaders yesterday who tells us that the movement is not over just because physically they don't have the zone anymore.
They might have pushed us out of that space, but they didn't push us out of our mindset. And you know, as you can see, like, we're back with a fire and we're ready to go. Okay. And we're not afraid of them.
And Charlotte told us last night that she was tired after spending the day in jail and being up so early yesterday morning, but she still felt the need to go back out there to the protest line. Again, there are a number of protesters, just a handful, I should say, down the street, but I've driven around the entire zone, and I've not really seen anything else other than police officers, just like we are right now, kind of keeping each intersection blocked off. So this is their plan in order to continue to maintain and keep control of what once was the autonomous zone. Of course, the ideals behind CHOP continuing with those who have been organizing it.
All right, thank you very much, Denise. Now to Theron Zahn with our weather quickcast. So what does July have in store for us, Theron?
I think July's on pause.